Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about the long-awaited lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is happening September the 7th at 15 degrees. So eclipses always give us a bit of change, a bit of identity shift, because they're normally closely conjunct with a lunar node, either like a south node or a north node. In this case, it's the north node in Pisces. And eclipses are sometimes known as mavericks because they really will change whatever area of the chart they're in, and sometimes they can be very volatile, which is why a lot of astrologers will say, please don't actively manifest, do a ritual on an eclipse, because the energy is too janky. You can also passively manifest, because everyone's always affirming. I have to always put a disclaimer to say you can passively manifest and think thoughts. Yes, that's fine. But actually doing it like a ritual or a spell or something, I wouldn't do on an eclipse. I would wait a few days before and after, because the energy is quite volatile. And it's also very curveball energy as well. So when an eclipse is activating a specific part of your chart, there's going to be an extreme change in that area of your life as well. So let's say that it's activating the 10th house of your public recognition and what you're known for, the validation, your career, and what you're undergoing. So you might feel, especially with the lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, you might find that you're becoming very disheartened with your role in public life. Maybe you don't feel like you're getting the recognition you deserve. And then we couple that alongside with something like Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune sort of together. So, the intuition is there. The North Node in Pisces, which is focused on your purpose and what your soul is trying to move towards. Maybe you don't necessarily feel like you are getting the credit you deserve. You're being taken for granted. So this eclipse is going to kind of like throw some emotions in the mix, and you're like, okay, maybe I need to change some areas in my life. When that lunar eclipse is falling on your chart, like in the 10th house, for example, it's going to really level you up. So this is not something to be afraid of, because people are afraid of eclipses. It's not something to be afraid of. It's actually more about you must strip away a part of your old life in order to move to something new. And it also should be recognized that this lunar eclipse will have emotions tied to the new moon in Virgo we had recently on August 23rd. And the reason being is because, of course, it's the opposite. So Virgo and Pisces are sister signs. So whatever house this is activating in Pisces, the opposite, you had a new start for. And again, that will come back when we have the solar eclipse in Virgo, September 21st as well. So it's always a series of going in and out with these specific themes in your life. And if you are interested, I've just opened up discounted eclipse readings for September. They're £30, which is probably roughly around like $39-40, or maybe like €32. So not expensive, but this will basically give you an insight on what the themes are in your life for the eclipses and how you can use them to level up. So if you're interested, that's in my website and my bio. So the lunar eclipse is happening at 15 degrees, which in astrology is considered a critical degree. So 15 degrees is basically considered a critical degree because it's the middle of a sign, right? It's like the middle point, like exact middle point. And so that position often signifies heightened emotion of whatever sign it's in. So for example, this is Pisces. Pisces is already very emotional. Hello, Pisces moon, right? So that's already going to be very intense. Taking on this eclipse energy, it's just all very, very intense energy. It's a midpoint for expressing the sign's energy. And so let's say this Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. But actually, if we look at it properly, if we look at its decan, which is the second decan of Pisces, it's actually ruled by Jupiter and the moon. What's the moon? The most emotional of all of them, right? It's the moon, okay? So that's even more kind of like heightened. Again, the moon is ruled by Cancer, and we know that Cancer is a bit more of an emotional kind of sign. Don't get it wrong though, Cancers can be psycho sometimes, but the energy together is like emotional, but a bit volatile. So that gives mood swing energy. So that's why it's really important to look at the decans and the degrees to know exactly what is ruling this particular eclipse. This is also a blood moon as well, so that's kind of like adding to the mix of it all. So at 15 degrees in the second decan, this brings a very introspective and spiritual focus into your life in whatever theme it is. And I'll talk about each rising sign's theme later in the video. So don't worry if you're like, well, what theme? I will talk about it. But Pisces' connection to Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius, amplifies this sense of intuition and higher learning. And then we couple that with the North Node in Pisces. So there is a belief system and a theme here that kind of encourages us to maybe look at our limiting beliefs and our emotional patterns, specifically when it comes to what we have faith in and our creativity. So it's a bit more of the esoteric, what I would call arty-farty areas of life, rather than anything very strict and logical like Virgo, for example. This is more about intuition, what we're moving towards, what feels really right and intuitive for us. And on a collective level, right, because Neptune is that collective consciousness, the eclipse draws your attention to feeling more compassionate for yourself, but also compassionate for other people, focusing on your mental health so you can focus that onto other people. And then also focusing on this kind of approach to life where you're not necessarily challenging societal norms, but you are moving towards what I want to do. So maybe if you got invited to a party that you didn't want to be at, but you were like, well, I've got to because I'll offend my friends, you're thinking, actually, maybe I'll only go for an hour because my boundary is that I don't want to go for more than an hour. Something along the lines where you're moving towards what you really want to do with your purpose in your life, and you're not letting other things, self-limiting beliefs, the past. Don't look for me in the past, I won't be there, right? That kind of energy. And societal norms to stop you from doing things that actually will make you feel more fulfilled and make you feel better in your life. And again, we're at that 15-degree point, the critical degree. This lunar eclipse is really quite important. So I do think that this is going to be a leveling up for all the signs, but specifically the mutable signs. So Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, and Virgo, specifically you guys. And I'm a Sagittarius with a Pisces moon, so I'm involved in this shit. It's going to level you up. So the second decan of Pisces is actually characterized by a theme called the victim of savior and the resurrection theme. So it also feels a little bit like I'm the victim, I'm playing the victim, but only because I don't really know what I want to do. But the resurrection is all about the rebirth, that I'm working towards what I do want to actually do in my life. So sometimes you don't actually know where you are in life, you don't know what the hell you're doing, you don't know what's up or down. Me right now, I'm like, what do I do in my life? That energy is really very strong here. So you try to associate yourself with being very spiritually aware in order to kind of push yourself towards a purpose. But actually this eclipse is doing that for you. It's pushing you towards the purpose that you need to go towards. And so you might find that you are feeling a little bit apathetic towards certain things at the moment. You're either very, very, chaotic about certain things. I'm like, yes, I've got all these things to do. Or you're feeling like, well, what's the point with it all? Because there's so many opportunities in front of you, but because you don't know, or you're not getting very clear on your purpose in life, none of them matter, right? Because it all just becomes background noise. You need to zone in on what you actually need to do. And so this lunar eclipse is going to let go. It's going to literally physically take something from you. Again, this is not something to be afraid of. It's not like, oh my God, something's taken from me, but it's going to strip away a part of your old life or something that is really holding you back in order for you to level up. And again, sometimes that can be out of our control, but again, it's something that is good for you because you are leveling up. There's a really good quote that I'm trying to think is on the tip of my tongue. What is that? Every time I say the tip of the tongue, I'm like, oh, I'm saying it right, because my ex used to say it's on the tip of my head. And I'm like, that's not, because he's foreign. I'm like, that's not correct. Like, that's on the tip of my head. I'm like, no, it's on the tip of your tongue. The tip of my head. You must give up the life that you were expecting to live the life that is waiting for you. And it really makes me think of this lunar eclipse, that we have to strip away parts of ourselves in order to move forward. And this second decan in tarot is associated with the Nine of Cups. So I'm a tarot reader, and the Nine of Cups I always see as being actually quite nice, because Cups is generally very emotional, links to the moon and also to Pisces, but it represents being rewarded after a period of hard work. We've had many full moons recently, Capricorn full moon, Aquarius full moon, where we were basically taking a bow and saying, yes, we've done some hard work, but we also had the feeling that we weren't quite done yet. There was more things to do, there was more leveling up to do. And so this is being rewarded for our hard work and effort, but whatever we're working on or whatever has become quite successful, we have to sit back and basically feel that praise and understand it, but also let it wash over us. So there is a sense, although we have free will, with this lunar eclipse, there's an element of letting something else do the job a little bit, either giving us praise, taking something that we don't need away from us. And really, it feels like sitting back and almost letting the universe just give it a little clap and then saying, well done, right, you don't need that anymore then, do you? And then you're like, oh, well, okay. And then, it feels a little bit bittersweet at the same time, especially in that second decan, but at the same time, it's like, I needed this. I needed them to close the door for me, because now I can move on to something better. And I was obsessing, and I shouldn't have been obsessing, basically. So what else is actually happening? So the Sun is conjunct Mercury, and of course, Sun in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo. Mercury is domicile in Virgo, so that's always good communication. However, actually the Moon is going to be opposite Mercury. So this is a bit janky because the moon in Pisces opposite Virgo Mercury. Boom, okay? Pisces moon, I know because I'm a Pisces moon, is far too obsessive and intuitive to really be able to communicate properly with something as disciplined and clinical as Mercury and Virgo. So this could be a little bit of a argument or a fight, but really I see it more as an internal fight. I don't see it as an external thing, okay? Especially because the moon and Mercury are much more internal planets, much more inner planets, especially the moon. So, I mean, some could argue that the moon is even a planet. I mean, the sun's not a planet, is it? It's a star, but in astrology we say it's a planet. So, you know, just ignore the fact that I'm calling it a planet. We're calling it for that. We know what it is. So that's going to be much more of an internal struggle for you. And I don't really know if I am speaking to myself in the right way, or maybe I can't get my point across because I'm so mixed with my emotions. Again, remember the second decan is ruled by the moon and Jupiter, so we're trying to get a big picture outlook, but at the same time we're far too emotional to really see what's going on here. So please don't beat yourself up if you're feeling like, oh god, the words aren't coming to me, I don't know what's going on, this is all just a bit janky, you know, it's all just a bit weird basically. The sun also sextiles Jupiter in Cancer as well. Sun and Virgo sextiling Jupiter in Cancer. Nice energy. Jupiter in Cancer already exalted. This brings a very expansive, abundant mindset to you. Almost a feeling of, I'm excited for the newness that is coming for me, right? I'm excited to strip away the things that I don't need. Jupiter, of course, is ruling this second decan, but also Pisces generally. So Jupiter has a big part to play in the vision that we're seeing. Again, what we don't want to do is get caught up in the details, right? Which is what Virgo tends to do. We want to actually see the bigger picture, because the more we get caught up in the details, the more we're like, oh, that thing that he said to me, oh, I can't let him go because he did tell me once that he missed me. And then actually Jupiter is saying, no, look at the goddamn bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture, look at the horizon and see what is actually happening here. Okay, look at the bigger picture. Yeah, he told you he missed you, but what is the direction of travel we're going into? Every time I look at Jupiter, because I'm, you know, Jupiter, I have the Sagittarius stellium, so Jupiter plays a big part in my life. I'm like, what is the direction of travel we're going into, right? And sometimes it's very easy to miss the big picture. Lunar eclipses, despite being very insular, will bring you back to the bigger picture. Because again, we're stripping away something in order to move towards a new chapter. We need to know the synopsis of the chapter, right, before we get into the weeds of it all. So it's really, really important to have that abundant mindset, even though the lunar eclipse is kind of knocking us back and forth a little bit. The moon is also quincunx Venus as well, and quincunx is a type of tension, okay? So when the moon has a certain level of tension with Venus as well, you might feel your sense of stability or feeling of just fitting your oats and being good is knocked off balance, okay? We don't always see Venus as being the most stable planet, but actually it is, of course, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Taurus is probably one of the most stable, fixed signs of all, right? So there is a sense of stability being knocked off by the emotions of the moon here, and I think that's what we need to expect with an eclipse, okay? This is not something where it's like, oh God, we know this with this lunar eclipse, we know that we're going to be knocked off course a little bit, but there are some nice things as well. The moon is also trining Jupiter as well, which is actually very nice. And again, this is good for feeling our emotions are expansive. Again, there's a sense of bittersweetness of I'm being knocked over the head back and forth here, but at the same time, I kind of think it's going to be okay. It's like, I think it's going to be okay. Like a movie, right? When there's always a crisis point in a film, the crisis point, yeah? And then there's a restoration of the equilibrium, right? Trying to restore the equilibrium. And then the solar eclipse comes, right? Which is like the new start, like the mentor is like, yeah, you did a good job, and the main character's like, yes, moving on, I'm the hero of my own journey, right? It's always like this linear flow of a film. So you have to think of the eclipse as being like the crisis point of a film where the sad music plays and everything goes crazy and someone comes in and gives you the shock of a lifetime, and then you're like, right, how do I move on from this? Because you know the film's not going to end there. There's always going to be we can make this better, basically. So to know you can make it better. Mars is also squaring Jupiter though. So Mars and Libra already exiled, squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So this is a sense of anger or maybe frustration about not getting the balance correct in what you really want to work towards. Again, it's really cooperating my whole sort of theme or motif that I'm talking about throughout this video, that you know that you need to take something away from your life. You know you need to strip something away in order to move towards what you're waiting for. And there is going to be anger, emotion, sense of nostalgia all thrown into the mix there. Maybe even an obsessive kind of attached feeling as well. If there's something that you really don't want to let go of, Mars squaring Jupiter can give you that sense of, I'm angry at the way that things are playing out a little bit as well. There are some nicer things, like Uranus is also actually trining Pluto. And so Pluto all about transformation, and Uranus a bit more of the curveball energy. Together when they're trining, this is almost like a good change. Okay, so it's a change or a shock that's coming, and we know that from the eclipse, but it's a good thing. So it's not necessarily, again, it's not something to be afraid of. It's all about leveling up. You just need to be aware and ready that you have to let something go. Okay, it really feels like I just have to be ready for this, and I don't want to keep repeating myself because a lot of this energy is repeating itself. We also have the North Node in Pisces conjunct the moon, but also opposite the sun in Virgo. So there is a sense that, you know, you are working on your emotions much more than anything logical. This is not like pen to paper planning. That's what the new moon in Virgo is for. This is what the solar eclipse in Virgo is for. This is not pen to paper. This is a super cyan release of energy of power, and just like, oh my god, I have to meditate and try to put all of these energies together, really. But the nodes will play a major part in this because, of course, it's a lunar eclipse. So just be mindful that there's an element of fated energy here, okay? Because the nodes are all about fate. When the North Node is moving towards the future, the fated future, that's really important. Again, this is why I'm kind of stressing why Jupiter is playing a big part here when it comes to the big picture. And there are a few other things in the mix as well, but I don't want to talk too much about them because I think a lot of them actually kind of repeat the same thing. And also, I do not want to be sat here for a whole hour talking about it, as much as, you know, some people might enjoy having an hour-long video. I certainly don't want to be sat here for an hour. These are the major themes to me that I think are going to stand out for this lunar eclipse. So please forgive me if I'm not going to every single detail, but I do think mainly this eclipse is, as I've said, you must strip away a part of yourself in order to shift your identity into the person that you are meant to be becoming, and that will be a bit janky, that will be incredibly emotional, and it will probably knock you upside the head a little bit, but at the same time, this is going to be for your benefit. So it's almost like when dogs want a piece of chocolate and you know that they can't have it, and they think, oh, cute, I hate you, don't give me any chocolate, I hate you, mum. And it's like, yeah, because I don't want you to die, sorry. So sometimes it feels like you're being, you know, here, there and everywhere, but actually it's for your greater good. So just remember that. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on those aspects and talk about how this affects your rising sign. So if you are an Aries rising, then of course this is going to be in your 12th house of mental health. This is quite interesting house to have a lunar eclipse, and I would say it's difficult, right? I am not going to scare you, but 12th house is a lot about the hidden. It's also a lot about the subconscious mind, and, you know, with Pisces in the mix, which is much more emotional, it really feels like you are letting go of something that really does not serve you, something that's probably been depressing you, giving you very difficult mental health journeys, or something where you've felt very repressed and you think, I have to just say this, I have to get this off my chest, or I need to completely leave this, you know. And this very well could be to do with a persistent addiction that you've had in your life, an attachment to a person, or a feeling of, I am not working towards who I want to be, and it's been depressing me. I've almost been holding myself back. Remember at the start of the video, I talked about the self-limiting beliefs. So this energy can be really very cathartic for you, because the 12th house is all about meditation as well, and a bit more of that kind of spiritual retreat, which Pisces works really well with. So this is a good time to meditate, get things off your chest if you've been feeling repressed as well, and also focus on understanding if you have some kind of addiction or attachment or something you've been a bit more obsessed with, that if it's not for your betterment and it's actually really unhealthy for you, you need to let this go. Because if you don't, you're going to continue holding yourself back. And again, this doesn't have to be like an addiction to something major like drugs. It can be a person. Having a crush can be an addiction, right? Being addicted to a purpose in life, or a challenge, or a journey. Being addicted to, you know, causing yourself pain over and over again is an addiction, right? So it's all about what is actually holding you back and what has been making you, you know, not making you experience joy in your life, really. If you are a Taurus, this is in your 11th house of basically people that are not super close to you, maybe friends and acquaintances, networking, mentors, but also your sense of morals and values as well. So you could be surrounding yourself with people who just don't really see the vision of what you want to become. And so now you're realizing that maybe they don't deserve to be in your life, or you should be moving on from them. And I think it's actually quite a difficult journey to go through that, because obviously you don't want to lose people in your life, because then you become more isolated. But actually, a lot of people in your life have probably served their purpose. And that sounds like really like throwaway, but, you know, mentors, people we meet, acquaintances, friends that we've maybe had since school, but we don't need them anymore. Again, remember, this lunar eclipse is the North Node of Pisces, where we're moving towards what we need to go towards. We're not stripping away past energy. It's more like, you're either going to level up with me, or we're just going to go in different directions, right? So it's really important to remember that as well. And also working on your morals and values and what you really want to be doing in life. You know, is there something that you don't find ethically right? You know, you're like, I don't really want to associate myself with this. You know, you could be deciding that actually this doesn't vibe with me anymore. I want to be in an area where people are not picking me apart all the time, and generally just feeling better about myself as well. If you are a Gemini, this is in your 10th house of career. So I used the 10th house as an example earlier, but this is again leveling up for what you want to do with your career, but also how you want to be seen in the world, your legacy. So again, North Node in Pisces, moving towards our purpose. What really gives you purpose in your career? And again, it doesn't have to be career if you're not interested in that. If you're retired, for example, it could be your purpose as a parent. You know, what are you leaving in the world? You know, you want to be a good person to your children, right? You want to be a person that's responsible, reliable. But how do you want to be seen in the world? Do you want to be doing a challenge that's like physical, like, I don't know, even going up Mount Kilimanjaro and saying, I have this purpose in my life that gives me a sense of I've achieved something in my life. Maybe I get a bit of public validation. Yeah, we all like a bit of validation. But at the same time, I've actually done something. So this lunar eclipse is really going to get you to take away things out of your life. Could be a job, could be something where you just don't need it anymore in your life, to be able to level up. And again, some of you might actually be deciding to take a step back from your relationship with your own parents and saying, actually, this is really toxic for me. It's not, I don't want my sense of community and family to be this anymore. I need to move away from it. So do be mindful that it's going to be anything related to how you're seen in the world, but also technically how you see yourself as well. If you are a Cancer, this is in your 9th house of travel, philosophy, spirituality, studying, and, you know, that wider expansive mindset. You have a bit of an important part to play here because Jupiter has an important part to play here. So, and also just to think that this is in the 2nd decan of Pisces, which is ruled by the moon. Of course, the moon rules you, Cancer. As I mentioned in so many of my videos, if you're a Cancer rising or moon, you're always going to be affected by new and full moons and eclipses because just by nature, it's going to hit you a little bit more. So in the 9th house, this is really, really very potent with the North Node in Pisces because both so intuitive, both so spiritual. So moving towards what you really want to be doing in your life in a much more spiritual context. So this is not, again, putting pen to paper and being logical and saying, I need to do this. I'm going to get really logical about this. I've got a plan. This is, how do I really feel about this? Again, use your natural born talents as a Cancer to feel and tap into things. Feeling is a secret, right? Feeling is a secret means manifestation. It means actually emboldening that figure, that dream, that vision, and saying, I want to move towards this. Do you want to get a qualification in your life? Maybe you felt a bit sort of down about not being qualified. Do you want to feel like I'm traveling more, I'm doing more things in my life, I feel trapped, I feel like I've been sort of, you know, just not doing anything? What do I really want to do? Again, the key words for you, emotion and expansiveness. How does that work in relation to your life right now? If you are a Leo, this is in your 8th house. This is a bit more of a difficult house to have a lunar eclipse in because it's the house of transformation, but also loss and stripping things away. And when we talk about lunar eclipse, stripping things away from us for the betterment, it's like, okay, in the 8th house though. So you could be paying off a debt, or you could be forced to be paid off a debt. You could be slapped with a bill that's like, oh God, I really do need to pay this off. But it forces you to think about your finances more, especially if you're got finances with a partner or like a parent or something along those lines. Also at the same time, it feels like you might be giving up some kind of addiction, particularly in the 8th house, because the 8th house does deal with addictions and obsessions, particularly addictions that are focused on hedonistic pleasures like drugs, alcohol, sex, particularly, especially if you've got a attachment to a person in your life, like a friends with benefits, or even just a crush, someone that you have a real sense of, I got a connection with this, could be an ex as well, and I need to let them go. So if you're a Leo and you had an ex, especially came back during the Mercury retrograde in Leo, and you kind of want rid of them, this lunar eclipse is like, bing, bye. You know, it's like, go away, flee, please, because this is not what I need in my life. And just to be mindful that the 8th house is more about stripping things away and a bit more about loss as well. So this lunar eclipse, again, not to scare you, just might be a little bit more about, I really do need to get rid of this thing in my life. If you are a Virgo, then of course the sun is in Virgo right now, Mercury in Virgo, but also this is going to be in your 7th house of committed relationships. Very, very potent for you. Of course, Pisces, your sister sign. So this is going to hit you as well. You just had the new moon in Virgo in your 1st house, and you'll also have a solar eclipse in your 1st house as well. So you're kind of the main character here because you've got 2 new moons in the space of a 30 or so day period, and then this, of course, in your 7th house. So Let's think about relationships. Let's think about commitments. What have we really put pen to paper on? What have we said, I'm going to do this? What have we struck a deal about? And I want to give you a bit of interpretation to everything here, because not everybody has a relationship and not everyone's interested in relationships. But if you are, this will hit the relationship house, and it really will make you think about your relationships. And do I want to move forward in life with this person, right? Do I really want to continue this commitment? And of course, really this has been on your mind a lot this year, because we've had a lot of good energy for relationships for Virgos, especially marriage and commitment and houses. We also had the Saturn placement in Pisces, which was in your 7th house for a few years, which has obviously put a bit of a restriction on that. When it went into Aries, you might have thought freedom, but Saturn is retrograding back into Pisces September 1st, so you might experience that again. And when all that restriction starts coming up, you think, God damn, is this worth it, right? So just be mindful that your relationships might play a part here. Again, you could also have some kind of commitment that you've made to a person. It could be like a boyfriend, girlfriend as well, doesn't have to be like a marriage, but also like a landlord, a house, a job even, where you're like, I don't know if I feel good about being committed to this thing as well. So just be mindful of that. It's a search for freedom here, especially with that Jupiter expansiveness. If you are a Libra, then this is in your 6th house of physical health, co-workers, work environment, duties and services. So with this house particularly, this feels like you are trying to understand what your purpose is when it comes to serving yourself and the world. I've talked a lot about Libras having inflammation and physical health issues this year, so you really have to start focusing on yourself before you can start filling up other people's cups. And so you might need to start stripping away responsibilities that you have for other people, especially with children or jobs, and thinking, actually, I need to focus much more on myself here. The intuitive nature and emotions of Pisces will tell us, actually, maybe I need to sit back and say to myself, I am running myself ragged, or because of my issues, I'm actually disappointing other people. So how can I start moving things around in my life to work on that? Basically, you're focusing on your both physical and mental health, and trying to strip away some of the things in your life that have maybe trapped you and made you feel like I've got too many responsibilities, or maybe I'm not living my life for myself. I mean, I've got a to-do list, but what's the to-do list even for? Who's it for? Whose to-do list am I even living by, right? It's all about focusing on yourself, not in a selfish way, actually quite the opposite. You're doing it so you can serve other people, but at the same time, you're like, I need to focus on the emotions of how I'm feeling about this. If you are a Scorpio, this is in your 5th house of dating, creativity, children, taking a bit more of a risk. So you could be stripping away something in your life where you felt very trapped and weren't able to be expressive enough, like a repression kind of energy, especially with that Scorpio energy. So with this as well, you could be deciding to end a period of dating with somebody, maybe decide not to date because you're like, I need to level up, so maybe I need to focus a lot more on myself, you know, my physical health, my career, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to focus on dating. But you could also be saying to yourself, I need to understand who I want to be as a parent or a person in the world that has actually got some level of responsibility. I want to have fun in my life. I want to actually think more about having fun in my life. But what is actually stopping me from being a fulfilled person? The word fulfillment is going to be most important to you, Scorpio. What is stopping you from being a fulfilled person? So this lunar eclipse is going to strip away something in your life that basically allows you to see the bigger picture and see how you have not been fulfilled recently. If you are a Sagittarius, this is in your 4th house of home and family. As a mutable sign, this is going to affect you. So this is not going to strip away a family member in your life, but you are going to think more about what home and family means to you. And again, what have you been focusing on in your life that doesn't feel aligned to you? So your purpose in life with your home and your family and the home that you're building, how does that feel to you? As a Sagittarius sun, I know as well that the sense of family is always a bit janky for us because we really want to be here, there and everywhere. We want a sense of freedom. And so home to us is like the worst thing because we're like, I don't want to have a stripped down. I don't want to have a thing where I am just locked down. I want to be free and flirty and blah, blah, blah. I want to do whatever. So for you, it's really thinking about not feeling trapped, but creating a sense of home that feels good for you. And in the process, you may have to let go of some areas of that. If you're a Capricorn rising like myself, this is in the 3rd house. So this is particularly perhaps ending a relationship or trying to maybe try to move a relationship with a sibling, a sister or brother, maybe even a nephew or niece even as well, and try to maneuver your family dynamics a little bit. You could also find that you are, ending a project or thinking, I've got too many projects on my table, I just can't be doing this anymore, I'm overwhelmed. You could also basically be ending a period of communication with somebody as well. So somebody says, look, this isn't going to work for us, and even though we tried, it's just not happening. So if you had a communication issue with somebody recently, that they might come back and then you're like, yeah, no no, I'm moving towards something else and this is not what I want. So this is a multifaceted house, so this could encompass quite a few things as well, but really I would say this is a little bit more focused on the day-to-day for you. So it could be stripping away something to allow you to have more fun and fulfillment in your life. If you're an Aquarius is in your second house of income and finances and stability, a difficult place to have a lunar eclipse in, again, because the second house is all about stability, and lunar eclipses are not known for stability because, like I said, they'll whack you upside the head. So this could be a sense of really getting very serious about your finances, actually, and investments, and also your sense of stability and home as well, and what you really feel good about. You could also be feeling quite disappointed about your diet and weight loss regime as well lately, or even weight gain regime, whatever you're trying to do, and actually focusing a lot more on your physical health and your diet and your wellness routine, and it feels maybe painful for you because, again, I talked about this lunar eclipse kind of cutting out addictions, and binge eating itself is an addiction, right? And even starving yourself is an addiction. I don't want to talk too much about it because it can trigger some people, but those things can be things that we're addicted to that we need to cut out of our lives because we know they're not good for us. Either way, it's not good. Eat too much is not good. Eat too little is not good, right? It's all about moderation. So the lunar eclipse can really highlight that for you. If you're more interested in the money side of it, then you might be spending money like it's going out of vogue, and actually you need to focus more on saving money and investing. But also, again, talking about that North Node in Pisces and the purpose of your life and what you're moving towards, why do you need the money, right? I thought about this recently. I'm a Capricorn, but I thought about this recently. A Capricorn rising, that is. Why do I really need all this money for? Because I'm like really obsessed with saving money at the moment, but I'm like, hang on, what do you want the money for? Try and think about it. Like, why do you want to be rich? Why do you want all this money? And you have to get to the roots of the stability. Why do you want that feeling of stability? Well, because I've got a second house for moon, haven't I? So of course I need that stability. But the sense of why do you need this stability is something to kind of mull on with this lunar eclipse particularly. And again, that stability can be linked to home, family, marriage, the person that you have in your life. The sense of maybe I don't want one foot on the floor and one foot off. So this particular lunar eclipse can be quite janky for you in that house. Finally, if you're a Pisces, then this is all about you. It's in your first house of self. So this is your lunar eclipse, your moon. So this is really going to be focused on your sense of direction, the direction of travel we're going into, your sense of purpose, your feelings about things. Again, this North Node in Pisces. If you have a natal North Node in Pisces as well, then yeah, definitely going to be focusing on that. What do you want to move towards? What's your dream life? I said that like a really accusative. What do you want to move towards? What do you want to be in life? What's your dream life? I'm obsessed with the dream life at the moment because I'm like, God, what's everyone's dream life? Comment down below, what's your dream life? What would you like to move towards if you're a Pisces? Like I said, I'm a Pisces moon, so I think I'm focusing more on that dream life as well. And what identity shift is needed in order to create that dream life? I've talked so much about Virgo and Pisces going through this massive identity shift, and that is completely correct, right? This is a fated lunar eclipse for you Pisces, right? So what's fate trying to do? What's it trying to intervene? We can't really judge fate sometimes, but if we're saying, okay, I got a feeling, we always have that intuitive feeling as a Pisces, you're just very intuitive, you're downright psychic. So it's like, what do I really want to become, be, surround myself with, and achieve, right? So if you look at this for me as an exciting full moon to strip away the parts that you don't want in your life and move towards something you do, this doesn't have to be a scary experience for you. Again, it's in that first house of identity. This could even be an appearance change, like maybe changing your appearance quite drastically. I had someone comment on my video recently saying, I've always had brunette hair and I've just recently gone red because I just want that identity shift. I had that a couple of years ago. I went completely cherry red because I have naturally black hair, actually. This is dyed. I have naturally black hair. As you can tell by my eyebrows, but I went cherry red and I had such an identity shift and I loved it, but at the same time I felt like I was trying to embody an alter ego that wasn't quite me. I was trying to embody another person and rather than become that person, I was just pretending almost like an alter ego. And then I was like, just become the person you want to be and make subtle changes as along the way, which is why I'm going to get a fringe in 2 weeks, because oh good Lord, I don't know how that's going to work. I'm like, I always hate when I have a fringe, but I'm like, I don't know, I feel like it's time. I feel like I just need a fringe. So sometimes it's an appearance change, sometimes it's a complete identity overhaul, sometimes it's the way that people see you, and actually trying to figure out, maybe I don't need people's validation. I'm going to let go of the feelings that I need people's validation. Again, moving towards a more fulfilled version of yourself. Whew, I have actually done 40 minutes of this video. I really only wanted it to be like 15 minutes. Now it's 40 because I've been blathering on. So apologies if I'm ranting, but I do my videos a bit like, just like we're just having a cup of like tea together, we're sitting and chatting. So forgive me if it's a bit too long, but I'm like, it's a lunar eclipse, they don't come along very often. This is something to discuss and talk about. So if you enjoy this video, please give it a like, comment down below if you're excited, you're scared, what are you looking for, and again, quote on what your dream life is going to be. I'm interested to see what everyone's goals are, because we're gonna manifest it together. We're not going to manifest on this eclipse, of course, because it's too janky, but we are going to help each other out with saying, okay, maybe we should do that to be able to level up a little bit. Again, don't think of the eclipse as a scary thing. It's a leveling up, but it requires a stripping away to begin with. So hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you for my next one.